cannot be like a commoner, and I must be perfect, and...
I wanted to give a quick shout out to my mother-in-law.
Also, Joanna, your mirror in the back looks like a fairy tale mirror.
Oh, so we have a dangerous thing going on our house. So
Hi there, and welcome to the Reading Queens podcast. We are here to talk about books, and we're very excited because we are talking about one of our favorite tropes, which is the fairy tale retelling trope, I guess. Is that called a trope? Or like a subgenre? I don't know. We're going with it. So, as you can tell, I am very tired, so my brain is all over the place, but I'm Valia, and I am here. Hello.
hello, I am Alison.
I'm Joanna.
Hi, I'm Stacey.
Yep, and the four of us are going to talk about some books we read. So we are excited to kind of get back to like the feel of the original trope conversations that we had where we'd like pick a book and discuss it, or pick a trope and then pick different books within the trope and discuss it. You guys, this is going great.
You got this.
You got it.
Anyway. It's fine. But yeah, first of all, how's everybody doing? We kind of had this conversation already, but like, how was your Easter? How's family? How's life? Tell me all about it, and our listeners mostly.
It's snowing today. That's what it's like living in Ohio.
Oh,
Seriously?
Oh, nice.
You guys get snow this late?
Sometimes
we do
it's.
sometimes.
I mean, it was like 60 degrees last week, and yeah, so it's snowing
and
today.
see, we're flipped. We had snow last week.
Okay.
But it's like 60 degrees today.
You sent it to us then,
Yeah, we must have.
Snow, what is that?
right?
Well, this time of year, I don't really want it. I'm ready for.
I'm actually okay with it
sun.
because my yard, we have dogs, we have big dogs, and when they go out in the yard in this time of the year, it's so muddy and like, oh, it's terrible. So actually, when it snows, means it's frozen and we're good.
They
Oh,
come
yeah.
clean.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Summertime it gets fine because things kind of start to dry out, but in the springtime it's rough.
Yeah. Well, we have had like nice spring weather, and I can't remember what the like translation is between Celsius and Fahrenheit. It's been like maybe 18 degrees sort of Celsius. So anyway, I think it's just like nice, comfortably warm, not too hot. But it was, so we have in the UK, we have the Friday and Monday off around Easter, so it's a long break, and we went away in our camper van, which was super exciting because it was the first time we've properly been away with our son in the camper van, which was interesting, having like an 18-month-old contained in this like small box. And we went up to North Yorkshire, so maybe like an hour and a half drive from where we live, and we went walking, and I did a bit of wild swimming in a lake, which was very exciting. I'm not very good with cold water, but like one of my things I wanted to try this year was like cold water swimming and dipping and stuff. So that was really fun. And yeah, we just had a really nice time getting out and spending lots of time outdoors in the sunny weather. So that was really great.
And yes, 18 degrees Celsius is 64 degrees Fahrenheit, so we're right
Okay.
around the same for that.
Okay.
So 18 to 60.
Okay.
That's around
I Googled.
what it is here. I'm in Utah, and we're in the 60s, so it's nice.
I'm just jealous of that because it's like, it's not quite hot enough for like pool time yet, but it is too hot to be comfortable outside. So I'm like, okay, can you just get that extra 5 degrees so that'd be 100 and I can like go in the pool, or can you be like in the 70s so that I can go outside comfortably? It's like spring is always weird in Arizona because you never know, but then it's like, for me, it's always just too hot. Like yesterday for Easter, it was just so hot that I like had to just keep finding
That's so crazy
shade.
because it's April. like
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we have a hot tub. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that, so I like to go out in that in
Yes.
the winter. So it's actually terrible in the summer. But
Nice.
Yeah.
I would actually, I would not like to live in Arizona because of the summers. I think I've only been to Arizona once, and I think that was April, sometime early April, and it was like, wow, this is summer, and like the novelty was quite nice because obviously coming from like the UK and it being quite cold, it was like, oh, we get our t-shirts and shorts and stuff on. This is when I was a kid. And it was nice, and I can see how it'd be nice over the winter, but I just can't imagine like having that heat and not being able to go out because I have to go outside, you know, and yeah, and I'm not that great in really hot weather. So You have my sympathy. You have my sympathy.
I've always lived on the East Coast where it's like super humid. And so I always hear that like the dry heat is different. So I don't know how it really translates. But
it
no,
doesn't matter.
It's hot,
You're
hot.
still dying. Like, yeah, this is the thing. People always say it's like, but it's dry heat. And this is coming from somebody who's lived here for like 20 years. And everybody's like, but at least you're in dry heat. I'm like, I don't care.
It's still
I literally
heat.
go
It's like
outside and I'm dead. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, my body doesn't care if it's humidity or dry heat. Like, I lived in New York for a while. Like, St. Petersburg is ridiculously humid because it's built on a swamp. And like, it's still heat. I just don't understand. It's so un-Arizonian of me, but whatever. Like, I don't care. It's terrible. But we do have a pool, so it is nice, like, that if I do go outside to, like, spend time outside, I can actually, like, enjoy it without, like, not having a pool would probably be torture at this point. And that conversation just happened.
I would definitely be a swimmer if I lived where you do. I'd be in that pool every day.
I'm not a cool girl that lays by the pool and reads, though, because I'm like, it is too hot. Like, I just get
I'd probably
too
read
sweaty
in the
too
pool,
fast.
which is bad, but... I do
I'd
like, so
probably
in
do
the
that
hot tub,
too.
I like to have my, like the audiobook hooked up. So I'm in the hot tub and listening to audiobook.
Oh, so we have a dangerous thing going on our house. So my son's latest trick is to put things in the bath, like when we're running his bath in the evening. And so far, so last week, 2 books went in the bath.
Oh, no.
Because he takes our paper bags off the shelf, and then he's like toddling into the bathroom, plug. I was like, no, got them up. So I managed to rescue them, dry them out, and then the other just before we went away at the weekend, he got hold of like the heating controller, you know, like the control unit which controls like the thermostat and all the heat. It has all the heating settings.
Gosh.
And I was in his room and I just heard this splash clunk. And I raced through and got it out, and of course it was like the screen had gone. It was like literally dripping water. So no heating for us for the foreseeable future. Oh, that'll teach me.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that he's old enough to do that now. Like,
he's a toddler. Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes so fast.
Yeah, we'll have people who are like, if you're listening back to the early episodes and you're like I'm talking my like sleep deprived early month stages of having a baby, and now he's a toddler. Oh.
Yeah. On that note, no. I don't know. Our segues are so random. We're just like, okay, we had that conversation. Let's move on to books now.
Well, hold on. I wanted to give a quick shout out to my mother-in-law because
okay.
we had a super low-key Easter weekend, but we went out to lunch with all of my husband's extended family, and she held up her phone to show me. She's like, I've been listening to your podcast, so shout out to my mother-in-law who's been listening to the podcast.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah. That's awesome. I always get excited when people listen to the podcast and they like mention something we talked about. I'm like, oh yeah, we did. Oh my goodness, you are listening. Like, you weren't just saying that. Because I mean, like, we're having fun, but obviously it's fun when other people join on our conversations afterwards. Anyway, well, okay, so as I mentioned, today's conversation is Fairytale Retellings. We have quite a few, not quite a few, but we have a few queens in our group that write Fairytale Retellings, myself included. So it is kind of a thing that we love to write, we love to read. So we each read a book. And we're going to talk about it because this is what we do. Okay, anyway, so Alison, you want to start us off and tell us what you read and talk about it?
Yeah, so I was planning to read Dance with the Fey Prince by Elise Kova, and I started reading that last week. And then, as I mentioned, we went away in our camper van, and I realised I have that in paperback. And so basically what happens when we go away in the camper van is that obviously my son has to go to sleep really early, and then it has to be dark for him to sleep, which means we're reading in the dark, which doesn't really go very well with a paperback. So I quickly switched to my Kindle and chose a different book, which I have actually been wanting to read for ages, which is Scarlett by Marissa Meyer, which is book 2 in the Lunar Chronicles series, which I don't know if you guys have all read it, but I read Cinder years ago and loved it. Like, it was one of my favourite books. And for some reason, I didn't like, I don't know why I didn't pick up book 2 then. I think I must have just like had a book club book to read, or had other books which were like more urgent and I had to get started on. So I just have never gone back to the series, and I don't know why. But
I did the same thing, but with book 1 and 2. So I read Scarlett, but I haven't read past it.
Okay.
You need to read the rest.
I know. I've been keeping
Because
you to. I actually
they're all
almost picked up the
good.
third one for this.
Yeah, well, I'm the same, because I now have like 2 book club reads I have to now read, but I don't want to leave such a big gap before I read book 3. So Scarlett, as you can probably tell by the title, if you haven't read it, is a retelling of Red Riding Hood, which is also new for me, because I think it's the first... Oh no, I've read... Hanna has a Red Riding Hood fairytale retelling, doesn't she? I think... The Wolf Gate.
Yes.
So I've read that, which is very good, and I enjoyed it, and you should all go read it. But apart from that, I haven't read another Red Riding Hood retelling. I don't know how popular they are, actually. Like, it doesn't feel like it's one of the most popular fairy tales. But I really enjoyed it, and I think there were a couple of things. So I love the world building. I love that it's kind of science fiction, but it has these kind of fantasy vibes. It's basically like that is my perfect genre, I think, like kind of dystopian fantasy. So I love all the world building, and I really liked it in terms of the fairy tale retelling element. I just love when it's really clever, in terms of like, there are key bits you have to have in with a fairy tale retelling, right? So I was trying to think about this when I was going through. So like with Red Riding Hood, you have to have a girl, and she has to have like, or maybe you don't have to have a girl. Anyway, you have to have the main character, and they have to have some kind of like red cloak, right? But so Scarlett has a red hoodie, because she doesn't dress up. She's scruffy, so she wears jeans and she has this red hoodie, but she always has like the hood up, and that's how she kind of hides from the world. So I really love that. So it starts off, her grandmother has been kidnapped or has gone missing. She doesn't know where her grandmother is. And so she's taken over running of the grandmother's farm. And again, this was like a really minor thing. But so Red Riding Hood, she goes to visit her grandmother, right? And she takes a basket of food and produce. So the first chapter of this book starts off with Scarlett doing a delivery run of food from the farm. Except it's like her grandmother's farm, so she's delivering the food. So she's not delivering it to her grandmother. But it was just like a really small thing, but I really like that. And then she meets this guy called Wolf. Original. who promises to help her find her grandmother. And I'm not going to go into I don't want to give any spoilers, but I think the wolf connection and how she's kind of done that is really clever, because I kind of feel like the sort of what you jump to if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to do like a Red Riding Hood retelling, I need wolf. You think wolf shifters, right? You think, oh, that's like the kind of obvious thing to go with, particularly if you're writing fantasy. But this isn't. It isn't wolf shifters, but there is a kind of maybe a slightly fantasy type element to that. So yeah, and the other thing I love about it, which isn't really to do with a fairy tale retelling, but it brings in Cinder's story back. So I feel like it's all like, in terms of, I have only read the first 2 books in the series, but I can already see the foreshadowing for book 3 coming in. I think it's really well kind of woven together, the sort of different fairy tales. So you've got these new characters, this new fairy tale retelling, but you've still got those old characters coming in, and you're still picking up their story, and they meet up in the end, and they're sort of moving into book 3 together. So I really loved that. Have you guys all read it?
I have. I've read the whole series.
Did you like it?
Oh, yes.
Which is your favourite book? Which is your favourite one in the series?
Well, these are Kay's, like,
Yeah.
this is her favorite series.
And
ever.
I felt a bit bad like talking about it when she's not on the show.
I think she's talked about Cinder.
Yes.
Oh man, I love Cinder, but I also loved Cress. But they're all good. They're all good, and they all kind of build upon the previous ones. So it's kind of fun that way, that like as you meet new characters,
This series
other characters are there too.
has a Sailor Moon connection, doesn't it? I was always into Sailor Moon, and I'm pretty sure that there's like also a little bit of that.
Kind of.
Okay.
Like, I could see why you would say that, because of like the whole like moon goddess or princess and like that whole thing. Like I can see why you would say that, and I don't know if it was inspired at all, but I mean Marissa, like I guess she does do like science fiction-y stuff too, so it's like all together, so I can see
I was always like, I really wanted to keep reading it, but I have this problem where when they're whole new stories in the series, I have trouble because like I have to like reconfigure my brain to be like, okay, I'm reading about these characters, not these characters, and so I kind of get distracted, and I'm like, wait, where's Cinder? Like where?
I think that's why I like because Cinder and Kai, I think it is, to a lesser extent, both had chapters, and it started off quite a bit with Scarlett, but then, you know, they had a good portion of the book each. I'm not sure what the actual kind of breakdown is, but I reckon probably a good 25% maybe was. And
I think it increases. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've read that series, but I want to say that there's more of them in Cress and there's more of them in Winter.
Yeah, I imagine because you've got more characters to include.
Yeah, but instead of like so focused on the new characters, I want to say you get to see a whole lot more of the ones that you already know.
Yeah, so it's not like they are standalones, but there's still that overreaching arc across all of them, which I thought was really clever the way she did that, because like, look, for example, like Tess, myself, and Hanna, we all write Fairytale Retellings, but they're standalones, like complete and total, like you only read one book and you might get a cameo of somebody, but their story doesn't come in. But with the Lunar Chronicles, like you actually have those characters throughout the whole story and everything, and I thought that was like really, really smart and interesting, because you like can read them as standalones, but also it would be a better experience if you read them all
and read
together,
them in order
you
too,
know, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think you need to read them in order though. I think that's the only downside, because I feel like with the standalones, like what you do and Tess and Hanna, like you can go in any of them, right? You can just read them as standalones in any order. Whereas I feel like with the Lunar Chronicles, you do have to read it in the order. Otherwise, you just get like you would get a recap on the story, but then you've got major spoilers for the book before, right?
And Cinder is so good, don't skip it.
Don't skip
it. Yeah.
I do think I know of people who've started with like Cress or Winter. Like I think I know at least of one person who started at Winter, because that was the book that came out and they like went to the event or something for it, and they started with that book and then they just went back and read it and they loved it and it worked for them. So it's like it's enough of a standalone, I guess, that you can do that, but obviously like you would be majorly spoiled by, I mean, Winter's the last book, so like you're majorly spoiled for everything that happened. But yeah, I think it's like, I don't know of any other series that does that, like with that extent. So that's like an interesting concept. If you guys do know of another series that does that, tell me, because it's like
I'm sure there are. I just can't think of it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I know of one, but it's not well known because it's mine. It's one of my series. Where each one is like a standalone, but
it's in your academy, right?
Yeah, but as I had beta readers read it and stuff, I had someone start with book 3 and they says, no, you've got to read the first ones first, even though it's a story all within itself. So maybe it doesn't work quite as well as the Lunar Chronicles.
Yeah, but I just think it's like an interesting, it's like my writer nerd brain. I just like love the way that works, you know,
I know
on paper.
The other series, I haven't actually read it. I've been meaning to. Is it Abby L. Noor, her Elementals series? Does that also do that? So they are basically, it's urban fantasy, and they're standalones, but they're communicating with each other. So there's like, I think it's like 4 or 5 girls. And they're all set kind of at the same time, and they're communicating via like text message and email, so you get some like overlap. I don't know. I think it's a bit different. I don't think you have the same extent of overlap as Marissa Meyer's done with the Lunar Chronicles. I think it's more they're standalone and then they all come together possibly in a final book. so you don't have, the same extent. I don't think you have chapters from different characters' point of view, but I think that's maybe a similar idea. But I remember speaking to her about it, and she said like the plotting was just insane, like trying to get all those different.
I was gonna say, actually, I haven't read those books, but I have been pen pals with her. We should get her on the podcast.
Oh, we should. Let's do it.
Super sweet.
I just realized that I have a series like that.
You do.
As you're talking, I'm like, I do. I have my Hawthorne's Chronicle, the first one. I was like, wait, I did the exact same thing. Anyway,
it all comes
sorry,
out.
you guys. It's fine. Let's not talk about it. Anyway, moving on. Joanna, what did you read for the podcast?
So I've had to be a mood reader recently, and this one's been on my TBR for a long time. But I read one of Tessania Odette's, one of our queens, books. I read Heart of the Raven Prince. I hadn't read that one yet. It's a Cinderella retelling. It's the second in her Entangled with Fae series. And what's kind of fun about it is the prince is from her previous series, the Fair Isle trilogy. So that was kind of fun because I already knew Franco, and he didn't get as happily ever after in the other series. So it was kind of fun.
Right, and he was a fan favorite.
He was.
Yeah, I loved him as well. I still haven't read Heart of the Raven Prince. I really want to though, because I did love his character.
Yeah. It was really good. I actually finished it yesterday, but I love the because with Cinderella you have you've got the stepsisters, the evil stepmother, and the glass slipper and the ball, and I just loved how she incorporated all that. There was glamour, so kind of I don't want to give away too much, but the main character's name is Ember, and she arrives with her stepmother and stepsisters in the Lunar Court, which is Franco's court, and it's for the social season. And when they arrive there, she's got 2 weeks away until she is free of this bargain that she made with her stepmother. So she's got 2 weeks before she's free of it and she can just escape them. So she's just trying to bide her time to get out of it. But when they arrive, her stepmother has engaged her off to someone and is forcing her to marry this person that she doesn't like, and she thought she was about ready to be free, and now she thinks she's not. And as things happen, she tries to escape, and she runs into Princess Maisie, who's in one of other Tessa's books, and she kind of takes on her glamour to pretend to be the princess for a while. So there's all kinds of shenanigans and fun stuff, and the glamour's attached to the glass slippers, so that's how she ties that in there. But it's very good. Highly recommend. All the feels.
Yes.
Oh, it sounds super fun.
It is. It's very Bridgerton. You know how that's blowing up right now. It's very Bridgerton. That's Tessa's.
That's her style.
Spot. Yeah. And it's so good. It hits all those spots. If you guys are, in recovery after season 2, you should pick up Tessa's books because they're perfect for it. I know, I love what she's doing, and then she's working on her next one, which I don't know if she has announced it officially yet, but I'm so ridiculously excited about it because I love her standalone books. Because it's just right amount of feels and magic and everything, and then you're done.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
And you don't have a whole series that you then have to read afterwards. I think I need to go reading onto standalones because I just don't have time to I always have another book that I have to pick up afterwards, so it would mean I don't then have to abandon the series.
Although at the same time I'm ready to read Kiss of the Selkie now, so
yeah. I mean, that's why I like standalones where they're not like that, when they're set in the same type of a feel, a world, and so you know what to expect. Her writing is gonna have these things and this kind of feels and this kind of world that she's created, but at the same time it's you don't have to like remember anything from the previous books. I've been reading a lot of standalones lately because I'm very bad at like reading in general, and so I've been like trying to go through my bookshelves and be like standalones because that's all I can manage.
Well, that's kind of what's nice about fairy tale retellings is a lot of times they are, and that's I wouldn't say I've been reading a lot of standalones, but to get out of the reading slump I was in, I have. Like I read your fairy tale retelling, Valia, a couple months ago, and that helped. And that was also an amazing book.
Yeah, that also got me out of the reading slump, so thank you.
Oh, you guys.
Yeah.
I know. I'm excited to get back into that world.
I'm excited for you to get back into that world.
I'm still dying for your wolf book. You keep teasing on TikTok, so.
Just get writing.
Okay, I know. Sorry, guys. I don't know why I'm here.
And just keep writing.
No. Yeah. No, seriously, I'm sorry, Stacey, the wolf book, I am so obsessed. As a writer, let's just have a writer's moment for a second. Sorry, I know we're talking about books. But as a writer, like sometimes you write something and you're just like, did I do that? This is amazing. Like it hits everything. And it might sound super prideful when I say it, but holy crap, this book, every single chapter, I'm like, literally all the ids that I love are in every single chapter. Like I am so obsessed with it, and it's like an amazing feeling because not every book is going to do that for you. And I'm sure like later on in the series I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, shoot me now, like this series is torture, just because me, I like don't like to plot, so I have to figure everything out on the spot. But like writing something like that and just like finding your sweet spot almost, it's like,
I'm so excited,
oh my gosh,
it.
this is amazing. Okay, anyway, I'm done now. that was my geeky writing moment for the episode. Thank you very much. But yeah, everybody read Tessa's books because they're amazing. Stacey, what did you read?
I actually think that this one ties into Bridgerton a little bit too. It reminded me of it a decent amount.
Fun.
Okay, so it's called Of Curses and Kisses, and I'm gonna botch the author's name because I'm really bad at pronouncing it. Zendaya Menon.
Sure,
we're gonna go with it. And it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it's about like a curse and stuff. And I actually realized by the time I got to the end of it, it's not fantasy at all. It's maybe magical realism, where like it's
okay.
There's a little bit of like maybe there's magic, but we're not really sure the kind. I don't know. Anyway, I expected it to be full fantasy because there's princes and princesses and a curse and an academy and stuff like that. So there are like rivaling families. One is like an Indian princess, her name's Jaya, and a like an English lord, Gray, and their families hate each other. And apparently the English family stole a ruby from the Indian family like a million generations ago, and then that ruby was cursed by the family who like they stole it from. And so there's this supposedly this curse, and anyway, so like they got this feud where like they don't like each other and they keep doing things to hurt each other. But so it reminds me of Bridgerton because the two girls, they're sisters, and the older sister is the main character, and she's like super protective, super like by the book, and like wants her sister to be like, perfect and whatever. And the sister, and they're both Indian, so that made me think of that guy. I think I was picturing them the whole time.
Okay.
Hang on. Sorry, my rats are making noises. They're drinking water. And then the male character is she describes him as feral, where he's like supposed to be this English lord, but he's large and kind of messy, and he's a sad boy. I like sad boys.
In books,
yes. And he thinks himself as a monster, but like really nothing. His dad is just a jerk. That's really the whole thing. But and so they go to the same school, and the main female character decides that she's going to make him fall in love with her and then break his heart. I was like, that's the whole idea. And then of course they end up actually falling in love.
Of course.
I found it really sweet. In the beginning I had a little bit of a hard time because she's very She's very stiff. So the main character is like what you would actually expect from a modern princess, I think. It's like realistic, but not very relatable. Where she's like, I cannot be like a commoner, and I must be perfect. And I'm like, why though? But of course that sets it up for like the character development. So
do you think that's why like so many, like most stories, or maybe not most, I think so many stories which have like a princess in or whatever as the protagonist, it's a like rags to riches story, right? So she is like a commoner and then becomes the princess or whatever. Do you think that's one reason why?
Yeah, because it's way more relatable, and it's also like a dream, right? Yeah. Like you'd be like, oh, I want to do this, so I can see that.
Oh, but so going back to the fairy tale retelling parts, I thought it was really cute. So there's she has a ruby necklace that's in the shape of a rose, but so it's like all these little rubies in a rose, and they start falling out. The little rubies just start falling as the story goes, and he thinks that he's going to die on his 18th birthday, and so he's watching these rubies fall out. He believes in the curse fully, and she doesn't. And so he thinks he's going to die, and he's watching these rubies fall out, and he's like, what am I doing wrong? How do I fix it? What do I do? And then one of my favorite parts is they have a snowball fight, and I thought that was like a really cute
from the Disney movie,
like throwback to so that was cute. It's really sweet romance. It's very sweet.
I like that. I like the ruby. I like that twist on the rose. That sounds really cool. Yeah,
that's cool. That is actually really gives me Bridgerton vibes though, because like in the books they talked about, or we had an episode on Bridgerton, in case you guys didn't know. We geeked out about that, but Anthony is like scared that he's gonna die when his dad dies, so he has like that fear of early death too and stuff like that. So that's like interesting.
And he refuses, like he doesn't want to fall in love because he's afraid. He thinks like he has to stay away from people because he's legitimately convinced he's going to die. And he doesn't ever doesn't have any interest in the sister, so that's not really a thing. But other than that, there was vibes.
That's really also really funny because when I watched Bridgerton, I really did not connect with Kate in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
And it's like the same thing. You're like, she was unlikable because she's like, so I'm like, yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, that's funny. So it's a standalone completely.
Yes, but it does have like the next book in the series is another character, and then it's their love story, and they have the. I know that there's like it's very strong in tropes. I don't know if it's a fairy tale. I have to look at it again. But
yeah, the title even sounds like it would be fantasy.
Yeah, and the next one is Of Princes and Promises, which I like. I think that's a cool title. But yeah, it feels very fantasy. But then like by the end, I'm like, oh, it wasn't fantasy at all. Well, it was like hinted maybe, but like not really.
Yeah. Now we have expectations, so you would be disappointed.
It's like modern royalty and stuff, so.
Yeah, that's cool. I've seen it, but I haven't read it, so that's cool.
It's funny because I went to the bookstore. I'm like, okay, I got to get a fairy tale retelling book, and I wanted to read Malice, but they didn't have it. And so I'm just like browsing the shelves, and I'm like, oh, I saw this book, and I wanted to read it, and it reminded me a little bit of the book that I'm writing, which is an Academy book, and I think the second or third book has fake dating and stuff. So I was like, okay, I want to read it. And then I realized after I got home that it was a fairy tale retelling. I didn't realize that at first. So I was like, I got my book. So anyway.
That's great. Oh, bookstores. I need to go to one.
They just opened a small one near me, so I was like freaking out. But
oh, that's cool. I love little small bookstores. Okay. So I read Hunted by Megan Spooner, also Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I had to like reread it because I read it as an arc before it came out, and so it's been like a really long while, but it is a story of a girl who and her two sisters like grow up in like the society basically, and then her father loses like all the fortune, and so he moves them back to his village, or like not a village but his like outskirts of town little shack that he like grew up in and stuff before he made his money. And so like the main character is so excited about this because she is very like you said, feral. She's kind of feral in the sense that like she wants to hunt, she wants to live in the woods, like that's like her jam. Her sisters obviously not. They're just like, give us, you know, glamour and all that stuff. So they're not excited. But then all they want to do is marry a rich gentleman, and all the main character Yeva wants to do is to live in the woods and hunt and do all that stuff. But anyway, so then her dad goes missing when he goes into the woods, and so she goes out to like find him, and she stumbles onto this like enchanted castle and the beast and all these creatures that she only read about in fairy tales. There's like a whole, like I think it's like a whole valley or something that's like cursed, and so that she, you know, that's how she gets there and stuff like that. And so one of the things that I really loved about this book is that the main character was very like, she was not a damsel in distress. She's like, literally, I will cut your throat, just come here, like, you know, kind of thing. Like, I know I'm shackled to this wall, but step a little closer and you're gonna get it, kind of thing. And I did love that about it. The writing and everything was really, really good. It was pretty fast paced, even though the love was slow burn, which I liked, because sometimes with like Beauty and the Beast, I feel like it's like they have one conversation and suddenly they're in love, kind of thing. And you're like, no, like, take your time. This is literally not a good situation. And the other thing I really liked is that we got to see like inside of the Beast's mind, because he like wrote, I think he wrote like journal entries, I think it is. And so you kind of got to see like his side of the story, which I feel like doesn't happen very often in Beauty and the Beast retellings. They're very one-sided. Like the Belle character is just like the main character and that's it. But in this one, you kind of got to see like the Beast's, you know, how he was feeling, what he was thinking about the situation, like where he was at. And I really like that. But yeah, I mean, I really love the cover, first of all. It's very pretty. And that's mostly why I picked it up. And I didn't even knew that it was a Beauty and the Beast retelling when the publisher sent it to me. And then I was like, oh, okay. And it is supposed to be set in like medieval, I think it's like medieval Russia. But I will have to say that that part did not feel true to me. I know, I'm trying not to criticize this book in that sense. I know, I am a harsh critic in that.
High expectations.
It's sold, a lot of it sold on that, and I was like, I didn't feel it. Like, it was just very basic, minimal world building in that aspect for me. But it didn't take away from the book, you know what I mean? So it was just like, because I had a certain eye and expectation on it because of it. That was the difference. But yeah, and it's a standalone, I think. I'm almost positive it's standalone. And yeah, there was like a resolution at the end of it. I know she has another book out after that one, but I don't remember if it has anything to do with this one or not. I did not look into it before we started recording, so my bad. Yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say about that book.
So I have a question for you all. Do you have a favourite fairy tale? So not a favourite fairy tale retelling, but a favourite fairy tale.
I think Cinderella, but I think mostly because I really liked Ever After. Ever After.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
But I think the trope in general of Beauty and the Beast is like my thing, because I like the beastly guys.
Yeah. That's true. Joanna, what about you?
Come back to me. I have to think about it.
Okay.
I actually don't. I've asked this question, and I am trying to think. I think I need to go back and read like the original fairy tales to like remember them, apart from like the Disney version.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I was like, can you actually really have a favorite original fairy tale, because they're so messed up?
That's true. That is the other thing, right? They are really, really messed up.
Well, I think that's why I was hesitant, because when I was a kid, like really young, like 3 or 4, I watched Sleeping Beauty over and over and over and over. I love that movie. But the real like original of that, well, and you know, even looking back, I don't think she talks very much in the movie at all, but I just loved it as a little tiny girl. I loved it. So it's always been one of my favorites, but I don't know if I would say it's my favorite fairy tale.
I remember watching that a lot when I was a kid, and I love the song from it. You know, the song and they're dancing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the dress that that they kept changing colors. Because I had my own Sleeping Beauty Barbie that had the dress that you would flip around. So.
Oh yeah.
And I love the fairy godmother characters who just kept arguing with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I just like their characters, I think. I definitely preferred Sleeping Beauty to Snow White. I don't think
I did too. I did too. Snow White scared me.
I much prefer the modern Disney movies to the older ones in that respect, like Brave and Frozen and those ones.
That's fine. Speaking of Snow White, I saw this TikTok this morning, and it was talking about this guy who was like, like
from the perspective of
Snow
the witch.
White. Yeah, the perspective of the Snow White.
Okay,
she had like. She's like, the witch gave me an apple and told me that all of my dreams were gonna come true if I ate it, and so she like eats the apple, passes out, and wakes up to all of her friends there, and the guy that she likes carrying her off the thing. So she's like, thanks.
Yeah, no, I saw the same TikTok.
I was like, that's so true. In her mind, she's just like, the witch is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I was like, that's where our fairytale retellings come from. Yeah. Like, this is what we do, right? Which I thought was really funny. My favorite growing up was The Little Mermaid. It's still my favorite Disney movie just because I think I talked about it on the podcast before. It holds a lot of like core memories and emotions attached to it that have to do with my mom versus the actual movie. But I remember like there was these Russian fairy tales that are like Ruslan and Ludmila, I think. There was like a brother and sister in the woods, and there was like another one with like Masha and the bear. There was like a lot of these like fairy tales that were so, I don't know, it's just like my childhood, you know what I mean? So it's like I associate them with like the cozy feels, even though they're like not good, the best. They're like horror. But this is why horror movies are my comfort movies, apparently. This is where it comes from. But yeah, there's like a lot that I like that just teach like the resilience of girls. You know what I mean? Like I feel like a lot of the fairy tales do that well, even like the darker ones. So I wouldn't say I have a favorite. But Beauty and the Beast was the first one I retold, so apparently I have a attachment to it.
Yeah,
I guess.
I do love Beauty and the Beast. My overriding memory from watching Beauty and the Beast, we went and watched it in the cinema when it came out when we were kids. Too. And my sister, who's younger than me, and really struggled with any kind of movie that has anything frightening in it, basically cried the whole way through. And I think my parents had to take her out because she was so scared of the Beast. I mean, he is quite scary, right? So I just remember being a little bit embarrassed about that.
I remember waiting in line outside. That kind of shows my age, though, that I saw that in the theater.
Well, me too. I think we just both.
I don't know when it came out. I don't remember watching it in theater. But
and Aladdin came out like the next year. I saw that one in the theater too.
I've seen none of the Disney movies in the theater. It's kind of sad.
I may have, but I don't remember doing it. So I don't know.
So you don't know. Anyway, so yeah, you guys, if you read any of these books, let us know your thoughts for sure. We did have some like indie recs we were going to mention. Obviously, we already mentioned The Queens, The Rose Gate by Hanna Sandvig, and she has other novellas. And then Tessa's books, Sonia Odette, all of her Entangled with Fae series. Alison, you mentioned An Enchantment of Thorns by Helena Rockwood and Elm Vince, right? That was a Beauty and the Beast retelling?
So that's a Beauty and the Beast retelling in a like Fae world, and it's the first in a series. So the first book is a fairy tale retelling, and then it kind of goes on from there. And I also had another one actually that I just remembered. Can I mention? Which
yeah, go
I
ahead.
forgot to tell you about.
It's okay.
I think this is pronounced right. It's Aurora by Jessica Sunden. Or Sunden, I'm not sure how you pronounce her surname. Anyway, and it's a Sleeping Beauty retelling, but it's she describes it as a myth-punk Sleeping Beauty retelling. So it's kind of a bit steampunky, a bit dystopian-y, a bit fantasy. It's basically a total genre mashup. It's really well done and really interesting. So if you want an unusual Sleeping Beauty retelling, then I really recommend you check that out.
Sounds cool.
That does sound cool. Also, Sleeping Beauty is not a fairy tale that's retold very often, so I always get excited when there is one. There was one Iridescent Night by I wrote it down, Brianne Wick. That's a Cinderella retelling that I know I think Tess read and really loved, and I have started but did not finish because squirrel.
And let's not forget the Scarlet Rose.
Exactly.
By Valia.
Thank you. Yes, there is that one fairy tale retelling I have. Yeah, do you guys have read anything else, or can you think of any other indie recs you want to recommend?
The only one I can think of is super spicy, and I haven't finished. It might be a reverse harem. I don't know. The Never King is big right now, and that's Peter Pan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen that one a lot.
But it's very dark and spicy, so if you're not into that, don't do it.
Yeah. When we recommend books, please check out like triggers and descriptions and all that stuff, because you might not be into the same things we are. So be careful when you come to these books, so you can have some expectations when going into them. But yeah, this was a good conversation, like a little book clubby, a little more just talk about what we read versus, I guess I geeked out a little bit on writing, but that's normal. Anyway, I think
we are who we are.
Exactly. But I think we'll wrap it up here. Do you have a favorite fairy tale retelling that you've read recently? Let us know in the comments on our Instagram post, and make sure to follow us at Reading Queens Pod. I'll also leave a link to our bookshop page in the description with all of these books linked, so you guys can buy them and read them and support an indie store at the same time. And also, before you go, please give us a follow on your favorite podcast platform and leave a star rating or a review, and then tell everybody to come hang out with us, because we're amazing. And that is all. Okay, bye.